And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Polish Protoss player, another one. So many of them. The blue Protoss representing Berserker Esports. It is PAPI. Vámonos. As we find ourselves in a TVP, of course, coming into this HeRoMaRinE is one of the heavy hitters in Europe. He is one of the best Terran players in the entire region. He's up there alongside Spirit and alongside Clem. There are arguments to be made whether HeRoMaRinE is currently top 2 or top 3 Terran in Europe. Regardless, he is poised to make it out of this group, and it's going to be on everyone else to try to slow him down and cause an upset. Of course, PAPI, it is, great to see him make it through the qualifiers. We were lucky enough to cover the qualifiers and see PAPI's run. We talk about him all the time. I'm going to try and watch my words and make sure I don't say PAPI too much, because it's just a part of my normal vocabulary. So I'm like the worst caster to cover PAPI because of that. Shaking my head, but it's great. It's beautiful. I love it. As we're getting into our openers, we have a double gas opener out of HeRoMaRinE, so it's going to be that much more aggressive. HeRoMaRinE, he's a very fluid player. He can play standard, he can play macro, or he can just cheese the hell out of you as well. That's what makes him a dangerous opponent, especially when it comes to some of these other matches. When he's up against even someone who's considered to be a lesser player, HeRoMaRinE, he isn't just going to play standard, he's going to try and punish you. He's going to try and test you as well, test your limits, test your speed, and look for any kind of cracks in the armor. And again, an aggressive opener already. Meanwhile, back at home, PAPI just going for a Gate Cyber Expand. Standard opener out of our blue Protoss player as well. Nothing too crazy yet. We're waiting for the tech of choice here for PAPI. We are waiting for it. Again, we already saw his compatriot in Geralt make it through and take down his own opponent 2-0. Can PAPI join him? We're here to find out. As the first Reaper does arrive, gets eyes on the Nexus and dips into the main base, but the Adept is going to come out just in time to deal with said Reaper. Will be forcing it back. This Reaper is zoned away from the main base. But does manage to escape the clutches of this Adept. And behind this HeRoMaRinE, he's expanding on the low ground. He is not going for a 1-1-1. Is just going for a safe opener overall. We do have a Cyclone on the way. Again, a pretty safe opener in general. Cyclones, they have found their place here in the early game of TVP. They are quite cheaper, and they have their own role to play as well, just shutting down any kind of early gateway harass and gateway units. Reapers dip into the main base. And one Reaper is going to fall, but we get a scout. That's what's important. HeRoMaRinE, he confirms the Twilight Council opener, and Glaives are on the way. Now, I should bring up that just because the HeRoMaRinE saw Twilight Castle doesn't mean that it has to be Blink. I think I just said Glaives. Sorry, Blink is on the way. It doesn't have to be Blink. We saw earlier today in MaxPax's series against Nickrak when MaxPax opened up DT. So Dark Templar are always a possibility, but it's unlikely. You know, they're much so a rarity here in Terran versus Protoss. So HeRoMaRinE, he can just assume that it's going to be Blink, and the question becomes, how many gateways? How aggressive or how passive is this build going to be? For now, we have, oh my god, a little bit of indecision out of PAPI. We have one gateway in the main, we have a second gateway at the natural. It looks like a 2-gate opener into a third base. Very economic. Probe goes down. Good positioning here from HeRoMaRinE. Able to delay the expansion, take down a probe, and PAPI, he will expand just a delayed variant instead. And HeRoMaRinE, he has all the information he needs. He saw the probe coming in for an expansion, so he can assume it's a 2-gate opener. He doesn't have confirmation, but it's an assumption that he can, of course, deduce and come to. So a very economic build here from PAPI. We have a mine drop being set up to go into the main base. We have the Reaper as well slipping into the main. Mine drop does commit, and we do react in time. We do pull away. Oh no! Oh my god. The retargeting, a Stalker goes down alongside a probe. Good pick off spot up. The medevac falls, and PAPI cleans this up. Not a bad trade. He may have lost the Stalker, but he gets a kill on the medevac. I do think that makes it worth it in the end. Third base being taken here from PAPI. Again, just kind of setting up here to get into the mid game. Back at home, we've been focusing a lot on what PAPI's been up to, and a lot of action has been occurring there. But we have our follow up from HeRoMaRinE. He's getting into his 3-1-1 setup. Very standard setup here on 2 bases. And it's going to be on HeRoMaRinE to either throw down additional Raxes or throw down a third CC. We will find out. As he's just building up towards Sim, building up his tank count as well. as PAPI is securing himself back at home. And we now have our follow-up as well. So we could see PAPI go for a Robotics Bay into Colossus, but no, we don't have any Robo units at all. As Reaper comes back in and gets an eye on the saturation, confirming that PAPI is making workers. But alas, we don't see any splash damage. We have an Auto Tartaras coming in as well. HeRoMaRinE, he just has no chill. PAPI keeps up. He just shut this down. But alas, we have charge and +1 on the way. So this is more of a swarm toss style. Just mass gateway army, Zealots, Blink Stalkers. Now this should eventually lead into something like Archons and Storm, but we'll see if PAPI does take in that direction and take additional gases, or if he stays on 3 gases and commits with a greater gateway army instead. 4 gates on the way, 6 in total. Auto Target comes back in. Good target firing. 2 workers go down. Back at home. There it is. We do have a 3rd CC on the way, so this is not a 2-base all-in. HeRoMaRinE, he is expanding. He's going to be expanding behind this push, as he should be moving out towards the 3rd base of PAPI. How many tanks? We're going to have 2 tanks with this push, a good amount of Marines. Stim is done, and combat shields should finish up by the time this army gets across the map, alongside +1 as well. So a very strong timing here from HeRoMaRinE, very crisp from our Terran player. At the same time, PAPI going for a Zealot run by across the map, going for his own drop. But does he have enough at home to defend? We're looking pretty bare bones. We have force fields. The force fields are going to be very key here to try to hold. We have an Immortal coming out. Shield batteries overcharged, but the tanks are within range. Force fields are okay at the same time. Zealots do make their way into the main base. SCVs are falling. But what about the main army? As the tanks are leapfrogging forward, they take down the line of Zealots, and they're getting within range of the 3rd base. The Zealots across the map are being cleaned up. The overcharge gets popped, but is it going to be enough? We focus it down. The Zealots, they barely take down the tanks. The overcharge barely survives as well. But HeRoMaRinE sims on forward. The boys have to be pulled. And PAPI does hold. That was a close defense, though. That was a very close defense. Very fortunate that PAPI had happened to go for that drop as well. The drop, it didn't just get economic damage done. It forced the reinforcements of HeRoMaRinE to stay at home. They did stay at home. He couldn't actually just bolster his army and keep on pushing. We barely did clean up those tanks. Where's the backup shield battery? We have a 2nd army coming. We need another shield battery. Ay. PAPI is not ready for it. He will not have an overcharge for the 2nd fight. Zealot Rambai gets in, gets another couple of SCVs, but here comes the main army of HeRoMaRinE. There is 1 Immortal to hold alongside all these Zealots to get on top of the army, but the mine shots, they go off. They even drag some of that as well. They take down the Raven. PAPI, he holds once again. And now he throws down a shield battery. He's like, oh my god, I could use this. You could, PAPI, you could. Shield battery is being replaced. We do have now some splash damage on the way. Templar Archives to get into Storm. 4th base being taken. PAPI not in the worst position, but HeRoMaRinE, he is keeping up in the economy. 3rd base is saturated. He's only down a handful of workers. With mules, I would say that HeRoMaRinE, he has the better economy. That is reflected in the army size as well. Prism has to recall back home. And HeRoMaRinE has a window. He has a window where he can abuse PAPI before Storm. Storm just starts. Without it, HeRoMaRinE, he can snowball out of control. He's pushing towards the 4th base. Can PAPI pull off another miracle defense? Can he hold on to this 4th? So far, HeRoMaRinE has to wait for the rest of his reinforcements. He has to consolidate his army. Oh, good target firing, taking down that mine, but oh, it costs us a lot of Stalkers. Force fields are thrown down. We slice up the army. Good defense so far, but again, a lot of Stalkers went down in that trade. 5 Stalkers. That was a brutal loss for PAPI. HeRoMaRinE, he has been trading more efficiently. He may not be killing PAPI, but he is trading so much better. And you can see now HeRoMaRinE, he's up 30 supply. He's rotating around. Storm is going to finish. And a lot of this next fight relies on these High Templar. There are 2 High Templar inside the War Prison. Those are the only 2 High Templar, by the way. As we move out, HeRoMaRinE moves in. We have a Doom Drop making its way towards the natural base. We can commit to a base trade. Send it, PAPI. Let's go. The boys are being pulled away. The natural base is compromised. At the same time, PAPI pushes towards the 3rd base as well. He denies the 4th. Winter mines are burrowing. Ooh. Forcing a bit of friendly fire on those SCVs. But we do have reinforcements, and HeRoMaRinE, he's holding the line here at the ramp. Where are the storms, by the way? Where are the... I feel like we needed a War Prism here to deal with this army to push in. Looks like the War Prism did return back home. A little bit indecisive from PAPI. And now the main base is going down. He's coming back home. And the gateways are being depowered. HeRoMaRinE, he's just getting far too much damage done. We did need to commit to the base trade. Again, the High Templar were just not where they needed to be. And as we come back home, PAPI, he can just pick up and leave. He doesn't even have to fight. As he cleans up even more of these gateways. Good storm! But HeRoMaRinE, he evacuates. He gets the hell out of there. Jumps towards the third base. Probes are falling left and right. And HeRoMaRinE, he's just securing himself here as he is up with twice the worker count. And here come the reinforcements. Here comes the second army. PAPI, he can barely deal with the first. Let alone the second. This time with Ghosts, this time with EMPs. The sentries go down. No storms are available. The mine shots go off as well. Good target firing on the War Prism. GG gets called, and HeRoMaRinE will take game number 1. GG. Very well played. But what I will say, even though he did take game 1, PAPI was keeping up. I was very impressed that he was able to keep up with a lot of the aggression of HeRoMaRinE. A couple of rough trades is what I will say. A couple of rough trades or a couple of rough moments for PAPI, and it did come down to the base trade in the end. I do think that was the best chance that PAPI had, but he couldn't quite break into the main base. He couldn't camp the production of HeRoMaRinE. He just did not have enough. And Big Gabe, he does take the first game. Well done. Ooh. Not exactly the most dominant performance that we expected, but regardless, you know, he was able to have a lead, apply a lot of pressure, and extend that lead as well with his eventual base trade, with his eventual push. And now we find ourselves in game number 2. Here we go. See the chat catching up. Big Gabe, I mean, again, Big Gabe is the favorite player. He's the favorite player coming into this, but PAPI, he was holding his own, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed here by our Polish Protoss player. I'm impressed, but can he take it even further? You know, keeping up and holding on against Big Gabe, that's impressive, but can he overcome Big Gabe? Can he take a lead? Can he take a game? Can he force the ace match? I'm here for it. We are ready for it. But yeah, it can be a really difficult decision to make there. I would have loved to have caught the replay there just to see what happened to the War Prism. If you remember, we committed to the base trade, but the War Prism with the 2 High Templar, they weren't with the army. It looked like they were maybe rallied back. It was maybe rallied back home and then rallied back across the map again. So the Prism with the High Templar with the storms just was not applicable at all to any of the fights, to any of the engagements until the very end. If that was with the main army, potentially PAPI could have broken past the natural into the main, and we would have seen a different game. I'm not gonna say that he would have won the game from there, but it would have been a very different game, would have been closer as well, and he may have had a better chance. Regardless, we're getting into game number 2, and spawning in the top right-hand corner of Hecate, we have the German Terran player himself. He's big, he's huge. He is, for Mouse Esports, for Team Mouse, HeRoMaRinE. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Polish Protoss player representing Berserker Esports. It is PAPI. We go. And PAPI not looking too shabby in that last game, you know? I'm proud of him. Definitely proud of him. Proud of our PAPI. But we'll see. We'll see if he can keep up once again. As a reminder, winding the clock back a little bit in game number 1, HeRoMaRinE did go for a double gas opener into a delayed expansion, and PAPI went for a standard gate cyber expand himself. We'll see if HeRoMaRinE switches it up and goes for something more economic this time instead. And it is looking to be the case. Here we go. As, yeah, we do have the Probe Scout coming in. HeRoMaRinE is going for a more economic opener, going for a Rax Expand, as opposed to the double gas of game one. And I appreciate this. To me, this shows a little bit more respect. He's like, you know what? All right, you want a mid game? I'll give you a mid game. I'm not going to be too concerned with the early game shenanigans. As a reminder as well, the Mind Drop of HeRoMaRinE didn't really do too much damage. The Reapers did. And we do see HeRoMaRinE being very safe here. Gabe going for the CC on the high ground, just to make sure he isn't delayed, just to make sure that he isn't disturbed here by any kind of adept harass. He's going to get his base up and running. PAPI is in the... I was going to say he's in the dark. Looking at his vision, he actually did see the CC, so he's aware of the economic opener of his opponent, and he should be resting easy back at home. Should be chilling. Oh. As HeRoMaRinE is getting into his 1-1 setup, important to point out that he isn't going into a 3-racks or anything like that. There is a factory on the way. We have pulled into gases. And the Reaper is getting across the map for a scout. Again, in the previous game, we saw PAPI go for a Twilight Council opener into Blink into 2 gateways before the 3rd base. We'll see if he goes for another economic opener or if he ramps up the aggression instead. Once again, it is going to be a Twilight Council from PAPI. Should be for Blink. But the question becomes, does he throw down 2 gateways like game 1, or does he double down and throw down a 3rd or even a 4th gateway? Here we go. Until then, we can see PAPI just splitting up his forces. He's trying to keep up and deny the scout. Reaper dips into the main base. There is a Stalker ready and waiting. Oh, and the Reaper is going to be zoned away. The Adept's on the hunt. Try to bring it down. And HeRoMaRinE is in the dark. He actually is not aware of what exactly is going on. Not aware of the tech. Not aware of the opener. He himself, once again, is working towards a Mind Drop. A little bit more committed this time. If you remember, in game 1, he went for a double Widow Mind Drop. Here, he's building up towards 3. He has his Widow Minds in position to defend against an Oracle as well. So as we mentioned, he doesn't really know what he's up against, so he's just preparing himself. And here we go, the drop is moving out. And PAPI, once again, 2-gate Blink into a 3rd. Economic. And again, I have to respect that, right? It's like, mate, you're up against one of the best Terrans in Europe, in your region, and you don't go all in, you don't cheese. You play standard? Mate, PAPI. It takes quite a big PAPI to pull that off. Not as big as Gabe, but big nonetheless. Respect. Here we go, the Mind Drop making its way towards the main base. We have a Reaper distracting here on the right-hand side. PAPI, can he keep up? Blink is not quite done, and he does have to evacuate, does pull the boys away. Mind shots are going off. Oh, not quite connecting on the Stalkers. One mine will get shut down. PAPI can resume mining, but what's important is that 2 of the mines were saved, and HeRoMaRinE, he can go in again for another drop. If PAPI ever moves these units away from this location, that will create an opportunity for big game. Back at home, we do have a 3-1-1 setup, very standard Terran setup here in TVP. We have Ravens, we have tanks on the way as well. We have not invested into Interference Matrix, so the Raven can just harass with auto turrets, as we saw in the previous game. Can look to get economic damage done, as the Reaper is shut down. Drop makes its way towards the natural, but there are Stalkers in position, and the drop is forced back. PAPI is keeping up, for the most part. He is keeping up. Meanwhile, HeRoMaRinE, he's working towards that same timing. We have Stim, Combat Shields, and +1. Again, a very standard setup, very standard timing on the way here for HeRoMaRinE, to be pushing out with tanks, with Marines, with the Raven as well. As the drop does attempt. Raven coming in from the to the 3rd base. Not gonna quite get too much worker damage, but here comes the Mind Drop! Oh! The mines have arrived and they will not connect. Stalkers, they come in, they shut down the medevac. No! Oh my god, we almost came back too soon. Casito, papi, casito. good blinks, and PAPI will clean up the drop. It took a little bit longer than we would have liked to, but he takes minimal losses. He has lost 6 workers throughout this game. Could have been so much worse. As now HeRoMaRinE is pushing out. Just like before, Stim, Combat Shields, +1. All these upgrades are lined up with this push. As he moves out, we have a War Prism Zealot drop getting ready to go into the main. Just waiting for reinforcements. Again, very clean execution of this build from HeRoMaRinE. And PAPI, is he ready? He has a shield battery on the way. He should have enough energy for an overcharge. Is getting ready. And with this ramp, he should have an easier time to defend this as opposed to Oceanborn. The ramp does add quite a lot of complexity here to the attack of Big Gabe. Here we go, he does Stim forward. He gets on top of the ramp. Lays siege upon the base. At the same time, we do have a Zealot drop into the main. SCVs are going to be going down. We're waiting for another warp in. Overcharge is popped. The mines are unborrowed. Looks like a couple of shots are going to be going off him. Get on top of the tanks with the Marine army. Oh, he's laying siege upon these Stalkers. The Zealots, they go ham, and the Zealots will take down the tanks. But HeRoMaRinE, he gets the base. He snipes the Nexus just in time. Meanwhile, PAPI, he's not done. But he may be. There's a lot of reinforcements. There's a lot of reinforcements back at home. The Prism takes a lot of hits. And he will not get any more damage done. HeRoMaRinE, he backs off, he goes back home, and killing the third base, that is huge. That is a massive pick off here for HeRoMaRinE. Unfortunately, the shield battery overcharge wasn't enough to keep it alive. A little bit too much DPS from the Terran. Again, it was a chaotic defense there for PAPI, and it wasn't enough. Behind this, HeRoMaRinE, he's getting his third. We have a third orbital on the way. It's being morphed in. Observer gets shut down. PAPI himself is going to attempt to move out. The Prism has to commit. The Viking flushes out the War Prism. And we're going to get a couple of SCV kills. We do have the army actually looking to intercept the War Prism, and that is going to create an opening. Yeah, the War Prism does spot the main army, and now PAPI, he can just go for the natural. A very exposed natural. And he goes right for it. The main army does commit. SCVs are being pulled. Up force with the ramp. Does end up force fielding the ramp as the SCVs retreat towards the main army. But we're trapped and we have to recall back home. One Immortal goes down. One Stalker as well. We leave the Zealots to die, as they will be cleaned up. But we did get 18 SCVs. Meanwhile, HeRoMaRinE, he's not done. Comes in with a quadruple mine drop. Oof. Getting 3 probes. Oh no, don't come back! It's not safe! It is not safe, and HeRoMaRinE is pushing out. He may have lost a lot of his economy, he may have lost a lot of workers, but he is up in army supply. Do we have Storm? No, we do not have Storm. We do not have splash damage. We have a shield battery, we have an overcharge, and a gateway army. And HeRoMaRinE, he can just stim and push up towards that third. There are a lot of Zealots. PAPI is trying to set up a surround. He's trying to lure in his opponent. Mine drop coming into the natural base. Does get a lot of hits in. Meanwhile, we do surround the army. But there's just so many Marines, so many Marauders as well. HeRoMaRinE, yeah, he just stims on forward and gets on top of the Immortal. The Immortal will be focused down. GG gets called, and Big Gabe will take the series 2-0.